everyone, happy Friday. So it's Friday Chat with Andi, and I've been very busy this week. I have been all over, and I am still out, about to finish up some duties here and then head home tomorrow. So Monday, I was mostly working from home, trying to get a few things done because I got to go do this really exciting thing on Tuesday and Wednesday, and that is it was a workshop that we did with my girl boss who sits over a bunch of technologists in my company, and she was tasked with doing a global retention study. And it was part of like her career development and networking her outside the region with other people globally. Which when I heard, I was like, oh, I didn't even realize you still had to do career development. I thought you made it, you were good. But yes, and also the study is super important for our company, especially knowing that millennials are changing jobs. Actually, everybody is changing jobs. We don't have the butterfly effect anymore where you like are seeing people move around in positions on their resumes and you're like, oh, this person's a butterfly, I can't hire them. Now, like, if you don't have a lot of different companies on your resume, it almost looks like you haven't been stretching yourself, or you haven't been looking for other opportunities, or maybe you were doing one thing really well but you hadn't I guess learned other things that you would learn working in new teams and rotating out into different projects. So it's very common for people to be changing jobs to the tune of, I think, the median that somebody works at a company is 4.2 years. In Silicon Valley, it's only like 18 months. Every 18 months, somebody switches jobs. And every time a person switches jobs, that's 21% of their annual salary it takes to replace them, to train somebody else up. And so it's a big cost to companies. I mean, they are getting the benefit of getting all these new voices and refreshing their staff, but it's costing them bottom line. So obviously we want to make sure that our workplace is one of the best workplaces, that people enjoy working for us and coming in every day and doing what they do. And not just the technical portion, but also feeling like they can bring their whole selves to work, and that they can, that people at work care about them and are including them, and lots of pushes for inclusion and diversity. So yeah, we're doing a retention study as part of just what my company hopes to accomplish this year and to be better, because there's always ways to be better, right? And I think the high up level recognizes that we need to keep women and minorities, keep striving to increase our workforce with more women and more minorities, and they see really great opportunity for producing more holistic projects, or having teams that solve problems better or in a different way. And so there's this is like a really cool push that they're doing that this year. So as part of the retention study, Chrissy's doing it, and she invited me along. And so I've been, trying to help where I can, and it was really, really neat because we saw, we were in Orlando in our office there, and people came from all over the globe. Like, we had people from the Middle East and from Australia and the UK and all over the Americas, and it was really cool meeting all those people, and they're the leaders in their area, right? So, a person from the Middle East is the person who leads all the tunnel and ground engineering, and they do a lot of work there. So she had a 16-hour flight in and then a 16-hour flight back. So she came a long way for this retention study. We had people come from Australia, who leads the S&T stuff there, which is solutions and technology. It's like the umbrella of all the technologists in my company, which is, basically that's what we do, right? We do very specialized technology and solutions. We had the person who sits over that in the S&T in the UK and in Canada and all over the US. So yeah, it was really cool having all those people in a room. And what's interesting about working with people who are engineers or STEM professionals, they tend to be a little bit more introverted, and so there's definitely like the introverted personalities in the room that that I was trying to like make eye contact with and be like, well, what do you think about this? And then there's also the very extroverted personalities in the room and the people that are just like natural comedians and love the attention. And it made it a lot of fun with all those different people. And we started out by just like going around and introducing ourselves. And one of the guys said, hold on, with the introductions, you have to say what your dream job would be if money didn't matter. He was like, physical and psychological constraints didn't matter. What would be your dream job? Which was actually a really nice icebreaker because people just like, they took it and they ran with it. And I told them about my blog and some of the initiatives that I'm trying to do through my blog and my YouTube, transparency and bringing women into engineering and showing them, what is it to be an engineer. And so then like the rest of the next 2 days, there were a lot of jokes about like, did you already upload all this to your blog? Or, hey, blogger girl, what do you think about this? And so it was really fun. And it was really empowering for me because we're with all these, like, very, these people who are very successful and are pretty high up in the company. And, at first I was like a little nervous about like speaking up, like, I don't want to say something that like makes Chrissy look bad when she's invited me, but I kind of like got the hang of it after a while and was starting to like lead some of the discussion, like going through, we had breakout sessions and then we came in and like came up with our priorities of what we want to see, like basically what we're going to give the CEO and say, hey, we need you to change these policies and we need you to do this with these time constraints because this is this is what we're coming back from this study with. And so I was like looking through my notes like, oh yeah, what about this person over here, I'd mentioned this earlier and we talked about this and yeah, I was just like able to start the dialogue and keep it going and that was really fun. And we all went out to dinner and yeah, it was really empowering, I think, is my takeaway. We were going around the room at the very end and talking about our final thoughts and we need to have momentum, we need to keep all these initiatives going because what we came up with is a program. We need to study this, we need to have a team put together some communications around this, and what I was saying was, you guys sitting in this room are looking out for your people, you're trying to figure out how to best benefit them. I heard a lot of discussion about compensation and bonuses. Like, okay, we want to give our people, we want to compensate them well, so that they feel like they're valued, but we don't want to compensate them so well with salary that they feel like they're not billable on the projects they want to work on. So how do we do the remuneration is what we were calling it, basically compensation. And we were saying, maybe it's your salary stays the same and your bonuses go up every year, so that you're still getting an increased salary consistent with the market and your worth and the value that you're bringing the company, but also you're still cheap enough to work on the projects that you want to work on without it costing our clients so much money to have you billing to that project. So yeah, it was a very interesting discussion. I was saying, like, you guys sitting in this room are looking out for your people, and you have so many ideas for moving us into, like, this company that doesn't exist. And that's the catchphrase. It's like, we want to be the Jacobs that doesn't exist. The company out there that is, doing something that is cutting edge and more progressive than any other company. And we have to keep that conversation going outside of this room because people out there don't, they're working on their projects and they're talking to the clients, but they're not sitting in this room with all these leaders and knowing that the leaders are looking out for them. And I think that's really cool that they are looking out for all of our people. And I want our people to know that. So that was my thing leaving away. I was like, oh, by the way, can I live stream this whole meeting? I'll put it up on my blog. So yeah, it was so fun. And I one of the things that I've been thinking about the last couple days is something that Chrissy had done. I don't know if she intended to do this, but she wanted me to present some slides at the very beginning of the 2-day workshop, and it was stuff that I knew really well because I've done extensive research and retention, some of which I was just like kind of doing, knowing that this study was coming up. And then it turned into a whole-fledged blog post, which you can read on my website, about the new future workplace. And Chrissy really liked the blog post when she'd read it, and so she wanted me to put together a couple slides about, what is happening out in the market, what is the new normal for turnover within an engineering company or a tech company, and then how does that relate to the turnover in our company, because everybody's experiencing turnover right now. And so I put together some slides on that, put together a slide about, from a candidate's perspective, what are the things that influence them in their decisions when they leave or stay. And I stood up, or actually I didn't stand up, I sat down for that presentation, and I just talked people through it, and we had a discussion about my slides, and I kind of ran it, and it was cool. And I think that was like really awesome of her to do, because it made me step out of my comfort zone a little bit. And obviously I'm talking to these people who are super smart, and it made me feel a little bit more comfortable than later to like keep speaking out and saying stuff when like normally I would just kind of like be quiet and not say anything. I just take notes. But yeah, so that was like, I don't know if she intentionally like did that so that I would step out of my comfort zone, but it totally worked if she did. And then later we had broken up into breakout sessions, and I felt that like my group, maybe because I had like stepped up to be a little bit of a leader, none of them were like taking the marker and writing on our little board that we had been given. And I was taking notes in my laptop, and people were having discussion, and I was kind of leading it. And finally I was just like, oh, this is up for me to take the marker and just like start writing on the board. And so I did that. And maybe they just like thought that I would be the person to do that because I work really closely with Kirsty in these duties. But yeah, I like took the marker, I led some of the conversation, and then when it came to presenting to the group, everyone was like, are you okay presenting? And I was like, yeah. And so then I presented everything that we had talked about successional planning and mentorship, retention for junior and mid-levels as well as senior levels, and what we call lateral succession, which is you moving from your position to this other position that's that is equally rewarding but different, so that somebody else can move in. So you're not constantly waiting for somebody to retire or be promoted or die for you to be able to move into their position. So like a rotation of like positions that are all really useful and valuable to the company, that are prestigious, but that every few years it's different people rotating based on their strengths, right? So, and then it allows you to, let's say you have this really awesome position one year and you want to cut back because you have health concerns, or you have young kids, or and you don't want to travel as much, or whatever it is. You can cut back and let somebody else rotate in, and then when you're ready to ramp up your career again, there's still space for you to move back in, and so successional planning and successional rotation. So I led that. That was kind of cool. It's just like standing up in front of everybody and leading that discussion. So after Orlando, I flew into Dallas, which is our global headquarters. And I worked from the Dallas office. And I stayed with Boris that first night. And we went out, and then I drove over to the Dallas office, and I hung out there. And I know a lot of the water group because they were the same people that was with my old company before we merged. So there are people that I had seen before, and then like all the new people that are in water from the new company. So I got to hang out on their floor. So the CFO, the Chief Financial Officer, had a little meeting in one of the conference rooms about the shareholder, I guess the financial earnings, whatever they release quarterly to the shareholders. So he had a meeting with all of the young professionals, kind of like trying to explain it in more of a, I guess, less accounting, like less executive style, and more like down on our level and what we could understand. And so I went in, and I was on a client call, so I actually got there like 10 minutes before it ended. I was probably there like 20 minutes or so. Probably less than 20 minutes. And got to ask a few questions of the CFO about his vision and about acquisitions and what we do with net cash in our bank, and what the strategy is between, investing in companies and like acquiring other companies that are more startup and they have a little bit more risk but less people and they're much cheaper, versus something that's stable and has a lot of people but is like a pricier price point. So it was kind of cool. I got to have some dialogue with our CFO, which it was the first time I met one of the executives before. Chrissy had called me her executive intern when we were in Orlando, and I was like, yes, I love this title. We were talking about a program for executive interns. Because, I had a conversation with Chrissy on Monday. I put a meeting on her calendar and had said, just call it like career talk. I need to transition some of my duties. I kept having this thought in my head, like, these activities I'm doing are dead end because I don't want to be stuck here. Are we only working on this and redoing invoices over and over and over again? That's dead end. That's the stuff that gets in the way of the stuff that I want to be doing. And so I had a really good talk with her for like an hour about my career and where I want to go. And she's like all on board to advocate for me. I just need to tell her that I know what I want to do, which is the difficult part. Especially because I don't know what's out there that I can step into. Yeah, so I had that discussion with her, and we were talking about executive internship programs, and then on Wednesday she had said, like, she told everybody we were all talking about executive interns, and she was like, you guys are looking at my executive intern. And I was just like, oh really? That's my title. I love it. So now that I have a title, I'm like, I have to do successional planning, right? I need to know who's going to like transition into my position when I move on. So I think I'm taking this probably way further than it needs to go. But I've like already set up my vision quest and who's going to be on my board to like sit down and do a vision quest with me of where I want to go in my career and what all of their roles are going to be within my vision quest. I've got an idea that I'm just going to live stream it all. True blogger girl style. And it was kind of fun. And so now I'm like deep into like, what am I going to successional plan? Where am I moving next? But yeah, that was fun. So I came back to Dallas and I was like hanging out in the office, saw the CFO, and then I realized that some of the EWRI, the leadership, the president and the president-elect, were going to a board meeting, which is in ASCE, the American Society of Civil Engineers. They've got all their different institutes. I think they've got 10 institutes: geotech, structural, construction, environment and water, which is us. And the institutes select 3 members to be on this technical review board. And so this is a board that breaks down the silos between all the institutes. And so they make, if one institute is doing something really well, like making sure that the other institutes know about it. And then once a year, they have a technical review board meeting. It's the board meeting, and they, each year, 1 or 2 of the institutes will share their financials, they'll share some of their initiatives, how we're bringing young members in, which is a big EWRI push and why I'm here. Some of them do a conference every 3 years, some every year. They talk about the strategy about it, they share ideas. And then it's a peer review, so they accept each other's what they're doing, and we'll ask you questions about your institute, and then we're all in favor of this institute being okay, yay. And so that was happening this board meeting, and I was like, hey, I'm in Dallas, and here for EWRI stuff, can I come? And they asked the technical review board staff members, and they said, yeah, it's cool. And so I went to that, and then went to their dinner with basically the presidents and president-elects of all of the different institutes in ASCE. And so we did that last night, which was fun. And then basically why I'm here is each region, there's 4 multi-regions. So there's like 10 regions in the U.S. for ASCE, all the local chapters and student chapters are split into these 10 geographic locations, and then each of so the each like part of the U.S. will have a multi-region conference, which has 2 to 3 regions in it, except for California. I think they keep their own conference. So anyway, there's a multi-region conference that's a leadership geared conference to like teaching leadership skills to people who are running these local and student chapters. And so each year the technical review board meeting is strategically put on the same couple days as one of the multi-region conferences. So I'm technically at the multi-region conference in Dallas for the Dallas, Oklahoma, and New Mexico regions, but I'm also like going to the board meetings. And I am here, and so is another girl from EWRI, and it's part of EWRI's push to like, we have funding, we want to get younger members involved, and we need their opinions so that we can like continue to have younger members involved and like having their ideas, because we can see where the holes are. We can see what would attract other younger members and what we can do better as an institute and as ASCE. And so in order to get our ideas and involve us in all the discussion, they invite us to a lot of things like this. So we got invited to the Multi-Region Leadership Conference, which is funded by EWRI. And we also got invited to these board meetings, basically, because it's at the same time. And I don't know that we would have been invited to the board meeting. I think it was just we were invited to go to the leadership conference, and our president and president-elect were going to be there, so they wanted us to go to this leadership conference so that we could all meet up and like strategize about EWRI and stuff like that. And it just happened to be like that I was like, hey, I want to see how this board meeting works. Can I come to the board meeting? And so it was like, all these presidents, president-elect, and then like Corey and me, which was fun. So yeah, we've been at ASCE. I should wrap this up. I think we're going to dinner here soon. And I'm driving, so I need to dry my hair. But yeah, so the person who is president of EWRI this year, it's a rotating, your your secretary, maybe? No, it's not secretary. It's something, then your president-elect, then your president, and then your past president, so it's a rotation. And so the person who's president this year is actually our global technology leader for computational fluid dynamics for water modeling in my company. So it's him, and it's the president-elect who works in another consulting firm and is based out of Denver, and then somebody who leads one of the local chapters in Seattle, she's obviously based out of Seattle, so she's the other younger member. So yeah, it's fun, and it's also fun catching up with people that I see that I work with. Like, what's going on in your side of the world? I'm doing this retention study, and it's awesome because it's just gonna benefit everybody and make everybody so happy to work here. So yeah, that's what's going on in the world of Andi. But it's been fun. It's been a very exhausting week because I feel like I've been an extrovert all week, just like making discussions going, and I was talking to a bunch of the like little student chapters and local chapters, and just like going around and talking to people. And I'm one of I help out with a lot of ASCE stuff, so I've been talking to the ASCE staff members that I know, talking to all the people who were there for the technical review board meeting, some of which stuck around for the rest of the leadership conference. And yeah, it's been a lot of talking. So it'll be really nice when I get home tomorrow. I'm going to stay a little bit during the day, and then I'll go home, and then I won't talk the rest of the weekend because I've talked so much this week. I'm like, I am not an extrovert. I know I'm confusing everybody because it seems like I'm an extrovert, but this is just like, it's not as comfortable for me as it is for some other people. So, yeah, that's what's going on. I hope you guys are having a really great Friday and trying to stay warm. There are so many people who are like flying into this conference from Minnesota, and they just got delayed, like 24 hours worth of delays. When I was talking about all the different times that his flight got changed and they got rerouted, It just sounded like a comedic stand-up bit. Like he just like kept going with all of the delays. And then they lost their luggage, and yeah, it sounded like it was real frustrating. So I'm glad I did not get stuck in that. Coming from Orlando, I'm wondering if some of my coworkers did, who were like going up to Canada and elsewhere, the West Coast. So yeah, hopefully you guys are not dealing with that and staying warm and yeah, getting through the dark, dreary winter months. So anyway, I will talk to you guys later. Bye.